This is Get Real with Bob and Stacy, the show that helps you learn about the mortgage and real estate markets. Get the inside scoop from their expert list of guests and have some fun along the way. Now, here's Bob Gallagher and Stacy Alcorn.
Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacy. You're joining us for our Leaders and Legends segment. And our guest today is Anil Gupta. He's an author and a coach that transforms people's lives in a matter of minutes. Welcome to the show, Anil.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I want to give everybody some background on Anil. Anil is an electrifying catalyst for profound change who has devoted his life to helping people rise out of pain and blockage into overflowing abundance, happiness, and fulfillment. He has a gift for identifying blocks and patterns that are keeping a person stuck and using his advanced intuitive gifts to reconnect people with their spirit, truth, and life's purpose. Anil literally wakes up people's souls to live a richer and fuller life and ultimately to realize their greatness. He is the best-selling author of Immediate Happiness. He speaks on stages all over the world, has a thriving coaching practice, and has had numerous appearances at Harvard and Fox News. And I was lucky enough to meet Anil in person while we were attending a party with Sir Richard Branson on Necker Island. So it was awesome meeting you, Anil.
Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you. My pleasure entirely.
Let's talk about happiness. Since your book is Immediate Happiness, can we measure our happiness level?
Well, actually, there is. I developed a happiness score, and in 3 minutes, you can find out what your score is. And the beautiful thing about that is it's something that's tangible. And when you get your score, after answering all the questions, you'll get a detailed breakdown in areas of your life that you need to work on. And that's what people are missing. They're missing clarity. And once you get clarity, it gives you focus, and focus gives you action, and action gives you results. So really, what we're seeking is a feeling of happiness. It's not actually happiness. We're seeking a feeling.
That's cool. Where do we take that test?
It's myhappinessscore.com.
Okay, myhappinessscore.com. That's going to be the site I visit. I might Google it while we're talking. So is immediate happiness possible?
It is. And, the thing is, we can have immediate sadness just by something happening, but we can also control our emotions. So, as I said earlier on, everything that we do is for a feeling. So imagine that you could create a moment of joy without anything happening. So if you just close your eyes right now and imagine a magical moment in your life, a beautiful moment. Mm-hmm. How do you feel?
Happy.
Yeah,
it works.
So you created that. So as human beings, we don't exercise that happiness muscle. We exercise that other muscle. Oh, something's gone wrong, or this has gone wrong, or that's not right, or she's not happy, or he's not happy, or he said this and she said that. But if you just exercise this, and it's a muscle, as you develop this muscle, you can just turn it on at will.
This is so cool. So what were you doing before you started writing your book? Like, what got you into this business?
Well, I was suicidal in 2008. I wouldn't eat with a knife just in case I did something stupid.
Wow.
And I had to have an intervention from Tony Robbins, and his wife had to do an intervention. His wife's brother had to do one, and then my wife had to do one. I was very, very stubborn at the time. I still am, but not as much. And I realized that I was focusing on the wrong thing. I was focusing on money, and my identity was around money and things. And then I realized that in one thing that happened that completely removed all the pain, and if I could share that with you.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yes.
I started to give. In the moment you give authentically without wanting anything in return, there is no pain. No pain whatsoever. So I started to give, and I felt much better. I thought, I'm enjoying this. Then I started doing other stuff. I started growing, and I started to be grateful. Because I was focusing on what I'd lost, and my wife said, look, honey, you made this biggest mistake in your life. And I thought, oh, she's going to hold this against me for the rest of my life. She said, you haven't lost everything. You still have me and still have the kids. We just want to be with you. Wow. And it was a thunderbolt to me, because that's not how I perceived things. I thought they wanted money, and I thought they wanted stuff. But this is a big mistake we make. We need to ask our partners, honey, what is it you really want?
So how did you gain the knowledge from your work? Was it just something that you lived through, or is it also something you've been studying?
Well, I've been coaching people for years, but I never knew it was coaching because it just came so naturally to me. Someone would say, hey, look, I've got this problem. And I said, why don't you try this, this, or that? And they did, and they came back and said, hey, that really helped. And it felt good, but I really didn't envisage that was really coaching. To me, it was just like common sense. I said, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, it's so obvious.
Right. So it seems like, especially like in today's world with so much turmoil in the United States, at least with the election and everything, there's so many unhappy people. How do you explain that?
Well, they're living in fear.
Okay.
And the secret to a happy and joyous life is the 3 Gs. If I could share the 3 Gs with you.
Yes,
Please do.
Okay. The first G is you have to give. Give your time, your energy, your love, your commitment, your joy, your gift, your money. Give it away without wanting anything in return. And as soon as you start doing that, I promise you an immediate change in how you feel. The second G is you have to be grateful for what you have and don't focus on what you don't have. So if I could just ask you to look at your hands. When was the last time you said thank you to them?
Never.
Yeah, probably not ever.
Yeah. Imagine, all the things that they've done for you. They've caressed
Right.
the people that you've loved the most. They've fed you, looked after you, protected you. They've written beautiful notes.
Interesting.
Imagine a life without them.
Yes. Totally
It's
different
pretty awful.
perspective.
Yeah.
So it's the little things that are the big things. Your eyes, your teeth, your health, your friendships. Be grateful for what you have. An exercise I would give you is to write down 50 to 100 things you're grateful for. And as you do this exercise, you'll start feeling differently. And the third G is you have to grow emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally. So at any given time, one of those 3 Gs is always lower than the rest. So if you focus on that lowest G and you raise that lowest G, everything starts to change. And this is what I think people are missing. They're missing clarity because they don't know how to live a fulfilled, joyous life. It's got nothing to do with money. It's how you show up as being a grateful person, a giving person, or a growing person.
Wow, that's awesome stuff. Well, there's millions of self-help books out there. There's all kinds of books on building a happier life. What is so different about your book, Immediate Happiness?
Well, I again, I like the word immediate. So when I gave you that exercise about looking at your hands, you felt great. And when I gave that exercise about remembering a magical moment, you felt great. So I wanted immediate results when I was going through this process because I was taking alcohol, I was taking some fluids, anything in our larder, pantry, NyQuil, Dayquil, anything, because I wanted an instant change, and I wasn't getting it. I was getting frustrated, and I knew what to do, but knowledge is not power unless you implement. And I thought, Anil, you've got to do something quick here, otherwise this is not going to end up very well. So that's why I developed, and it's very simple stuff. Just be grateful for what you have. Write down things you're grateful for. Perform 5, 6, 10 random acts of kindness. Look at an area of your life where you're not growing. Are you emotionally not growing, physically, spiritually, mentally? And just work on that small area, because that's what people don't realize. Working on that small area has a profound effect.
It's really interesting, just the mind shift that I'm having right now. Like, you see so many people, like, I think we live in a world where we try to drown out or, like, kind of tame down pain through drinking or drugs or even, like, the constant barrage of social media, like just keeping our minds so occupied that we can't feel pain. And drowning out pain is totally the opposite of what you're saying. You're saying just focus on building your happiness, which goes to your original point, focus on the right things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when you do that, the pain disappears. It's like when you take a headache medication, and the headache disappears, but you don't know it's disappeared and think, the headache's gone. So instead of focusing on the pain, focus on the joy, focus on what's working and what's right in your life. And all of a sudden, that pain is not allowed to enter your life.
I love that. So why do you think people seek happiness?
Well, they're seeking a feeling, and it really stems from when a child is born. What's the first thing you give it? You give it tons and tons of love. You give it praise, you give it adoration, you give it presents, everything. And then the child goes to school, and then all of a sudden it's told to sit down, shut up, and just be quiet. And then before a child would do anything, and they'd get so much admiration and acclaim, and then there comes a point in the child's life when it does something and it doesn't get that. And then all of a sudden it thinks, oh, there's something wrong with me. I better try harder. So then they'll try harder to get that attention and affection. And if they don't get it back, it's very painful. Then they think there's something wrong with them. They're not lovable. They don't belong. There's something missing. And that's how we develop these complexes. And it starts from a very, very young age.
What should people be seeking?
They should be seeking to serve. Serve other people. Don't focus on yourself, because we're not that important. And one of the sentences I teach people is this: what other people think of you is none of your business. Because we're so focused on what other people think of us, we stop being our true selves. Our true nature is pure love.
That's awesome. I'm writing notes as we go. Any other tips for people on immediate happiness?
Yeah, just look around. Slow down. The only way to seek happiness and fulfillment is through awareness. You cannot be fulfilled, you cannot be joyous, you cannot be in love without awareness. So the one muscle I ask and urge everybody to increase and develop is the muscle of awareness. So if you just sit down, look around you, and just be aware of, your skin, your feet, where you're sitting, where you're standing, the light conditions, the people around you, the things that you see, the things that you don't see, the things that are in the room, out the room, the atmosphere, the weather. So develop that muscle, and as you get awareness, things start to change. And that's a very big thing.
What advice do you have for people that are going through marital problems? How do you stop a marriage from failing?
The number one thing you can do is this. If you serve your partner, make your partner your number one priority, they will never leave you. And this is what happens in a relationship. A boy meets a girl, and they're attracted for the wrong reasons, but they fall in love, and they're always serving each other. Then they get married, then all of a sudden they start taking each other for granted. So he stops doing all the stuff that he used to do for her, and vice versa. And then the man doesn't feel respected, and the woman doesn't feel loved. But that's the biggest mistake in a marriage. But if you start making your partner retain that number one relationship, they will never leave you, ever. It's that simple.
Do you have any advice for people on how to pick the perfect partner?
See, people spend more time picking a car or choosing a house than they do on a partner. So they don't do their due diligence. They don't look at I think every partner should have these three traits. One is every partner should be loving. 2, every partner should have integrity. 3, every partner should have good health. Not just physical health, but mental health and spiritual health and emotional health. Because, if you get into a relationship and you get into a relationship with someone who's got so much baggage, so much emotional baggage, it's not going to work out. I mean, it's going to be painful. But then you're in that relationship and you think, oh, I might as well stay in here. I know what I'm getting. And then people compromise and they settle. Well, it doesn't have to be that way.
Let's talk about being a parent. What are the biggest mistakes you think parents make?
The biggest mistake that parents make is they make their children their number one priority instead of their partners. Because if you make your child your number one priority, or one partner does, then they lose that connection between themselves. So the other partner will start, normally it's the male, normally he'll start working harder, longer business hours, he'll start playing tennis, golf, and he'll take trips. And then when the kids go to university, the mother will look around and say, hey, honey, I'm back, but he's well gone. And then she has a big problem because her kids have gone to university. She has no one to give her love. So it's a frustration that both parents will feel. Whereas if each other made each other their number one priority, the kids will see that. They will do the same, so their kids will do the same, and their relationship will thrive.
Interesting. You say you have life-changing exercise that parents can perform?
Okay, so if you, this is an exercise we did, and it was so powerful. We would sit around a dinner table, and I would ask my wife, honey, what did you do today that you were not thankful? So she would say something like, I cooked this amazing meal. No one said anything about it. And then we would fix that thing. Honey, I really want to thank you for the energy and love and commitment and joy you put in this food. And my son would say something, my daughter would say something. Then I would ask my son the same question, my daughter the same question, and then I would ask myself the same question. Then the next question I would ask is, what are you grateful for? We would go around the table. Next question is, what act of kindness did you see today? Go around the table. Next question is, what act of kindness did you perform today? Then I would go around the table. And then another question would be, what did you see? What did you notice? So, Dad, when you come and pick me up from school, I notice you give me a hug and a kiss, but not every parent comes, and not every child wants their parent to kiss them. Oh, that's interesting. Well done, son. And then the last question is there anything on your mind? So one day my son said, Dad, you lied to me. And I said, son, whoa, that's a strong word. I've got a very high level of integrity, but I'm interested. How did I lie to you? He said, well, Dad, the other day you said you would play with me in 15 minutes. You took over an hour. And I could have said, look, son, don't you know who I am, how important I am? I've got people to look after. But I didn't. I said, son, you know what? You're right. I apologize. Would you have the heart to forgive me? And he was right. So I'm a lot more careful now. We are what we say, so we have to be careful what we say and who we say it to. And now the beautiful part of this exercise is this. Next day, my wife would lead the meeting. Next day, my son, who was 9 at the time, would lead the meeting. And the next day, my daughter, who was 7 at the time, would lead the meeting.
That's a cool...
So imagine a 7-year-old leading a meeting.
It's a cool idea, because you're basically training them to look for all these things during the course of the day, so you're helping them with focus.
Absolutely. But, the level of awareness goes up. They have to become leaders. They have to become public speakers. They have to be respectful. They have to listen. It's the most incredible exercise. Now, you can do this with the family members, and you can do this with workmates too.
Right. That's awesome. Our time, believe it or not, is almost up, even though I could go on talking about this for another hour and a half. But we have with us today Anil Gupta he's a coach and author of the book Immediate Happiness. Where's the best place for people to find you and follow you and buy your book?
So really the best place to go is to go to my website, which is obviously immediatehappiness.com, and you'll get free videos, free content. You can download my book there for free. You can get it from Amazon. But really, my mission is to serve, to move, touch, and inspire as many people as possible. And I hope we made some progress today.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Anil.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Get Real after this.